Hello, parents. It's Jamie here with Maggie. Just like I told you yesterday, we're excited to sort of let you be a fly on a wall during our personal conversation here about just how far Maggie has come over the last 4 years. So welcome. I'm assuming people will pop on here in a few minutes, and then you'll obviously be able to catch this on replay, and I even think you might want to share it with your daughters. So first, I'll just say welcome, Maggie. Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so I met Maggie years ago. Were you a freshman in high school?
Freshman high school.
Okay, so we have been working together. She's been a client of mine since about then, and I don't get to see her weekly anymore because Maggie's off and doing wonderful things and thriving. But we've had a really cool relationship over the last 4 years. So we're going to kind of walk you through that relationship, but really with a focus on Maggie and sort of some of the things that she's been through and some of the things that have worked for her as she's been on this journey with social anxiety and anxiety in general. So let's start, Maggie, and let's just talk about like when this started for you. When did you start to struggle with social anxiety?
So for me, it really kind of hit at the end of 7th grade. I was noticing that I was kind of pulling away from social interactions. I lost a lot of confidence in myself, and then it got steadily to the point where just being at school and staying in a classroom was really hard for me. And so I ended up having to do online school fall of 8th grade. And then I got some counseling, I got some tips, so I was able to go back. But really, I was just there surviving. I was just there trying to keep myself calm the whole day. I wasn't doing anything extra because there was no extra energy. I remember just sitting in class and just feeling all of those physical sensations that I'd come to know signaled the beginning of a panic attack, and I basically just had to use my strategies to keep myself calm. And I really wasn't present in the room, and I really wasn't able to add anything or engage with anyone. And then when I come home, it'd just be complete exhaustion. And then beginning freshman year, I started seeing you. And I started realizing that how different life coaching is versus counseling.
And we'll dive into that, but I want to go back for parents that are just having a hard time understanding their daughter's social anxiety. Could you take a second, because what you're describing about what happened in 8th grade is that fight or flight. So your body, just by simply being in school, was running on this high adrenaline. Survival mode is a great way to say that, but just help parents understand how hard their daughters work just to simply be in school.
Yeah, definitely. When you're in that place, it really is like running a marathon every day. And you really you can't compare it to someone who doesn't have anxiety, because there's just such a difference in how much energy it takes just to leave the house, just to be there in school, because there's so much that you're constantly having to fight off, just to be there.
Yeah, that sounds really intense. Okay, so then you brought up the really cool topic of counseling and how different it is from coaching. But before we get into that, let's talk about your counseling experience. Just share a little bit if you are up for that.
So I went to a couple counselors starting in elementary school, and then when I started having struggles with anxiety in 7th grade. And I learned some tips and some tricks to kind of just deal with the anxiety. But I mean, ultimately, it just sort of felt like sitting in a room with someone and they were just kind of analyzing my problems and sort of wanting to fix me in a way that was true to them and their practice, but not really to me and what I saw as my long-term goal at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so something you said a few minutes ago really struck me, and it was just you talked about how you felt when you left the office. Can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that when you
Mhm.
left the counseling office?
So when I left after an hour session, I would just feel really exhausted and just overwhelmed, and I felt like, okay, like now I'm aware of all of these issues I'm dealing with, but I didn't feel like I really had a path of action to actually do anything about it, really, and that's just not very helpful, and I think. I don't know. I just don't think it's very responsible for a counselor to tell you that, okay, here's what, your issues are, but not give you an opportunity to solve them for yourself.
Yeah, I relate to that. Okay, so when I first met Maggie, it's been about 4 years, and she came in. I used to run a teen center, and that's a story for another day. It was amazing, but that's when I met Maggie, and she came into my office on the first day, just adorable. I remember you had a heart for fashion at that time, and that was a way. So Maggie didn't feel maybe that she could express herself with words, but am I on? Do you remember this?
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
so you talk. Better your words than mine. You talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just talking to people in class and whatever, like, didn't really wasn't easy for me. And so kind of the way I would express myself is wearing like vibrant clothes and just kind of personalizing myself kind of on the outside to tell kind of the story of what was within that I couldn't really express for myself yet.
Yeah, I knew that right when I learned that about you, that I liked you a lot. Like, that was the coolest. But I do also remember that you were very nervous during our first meeting. I mean, I imagine meeting somebody new is hard, but you came in, and I remember you had a hard time looking me in the eye, and you were kind of hunched over. Your shoulders were kind of hunched over, and I could tell that it took so much effort for you to just be there.
Yeah.
So what was it like to come into my office that first time? What were you thinking?
Well, I was kind of unsure. I'd never met you before, obviously, and I'd heard of you through my mom's friend. But I really was willing to try life coaching. Like, it was something that was really exciting for me, and I read your website and I thought, well, this could work for me. And so I was very nervous, but right away, like after a couple sessions, you have this like very calming presence, and so I think we really got to know each other pretty quickly, which was really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Super cool thing about Maggie too is that she, even though it was hard, she was willing to do the work. So I would give a suggestion, and she would be like, "Oh, I don't know, that feels like a lot," but like between our weekly sessions, she would come back and she would have done whatever it is, this goal. So let's talk a little bit about the coaching process and just like how that worked, and maybe how you felt after a coaching session versus after your counseling sessions that you already described.
Yeah. So when usually during our sessions early on, we would talk about like little steps I could take to just reach my ultimate goals. And so I would leave feeling very motivated, very supported, and just I would want to go to school the next day. And, if my goal was to start a conversation with someone, like, I'd want to go and do it. Because it just, like, even though starting a conversation wouldn't be something that, people who don't have anxiety, that, that's not a big thing to celebrate, but for me, it really was. And you let me feel like that was okay to be proud of just talking to someone, because that's where I was at.
Yeah, that is something to be proud of. And I think that if parents share this video with their daughters, they're going to have daughters who really resonate with that. And so Maggie, you wanted to share a little bit about the importance of celebrating.
Yeah. I think it's super important to just acknowledge where you're at, and give yourself like that grace to be like, this is where I'm at. And, taking those little steps, you really deserve to celebrate yourself and be proud, because it is so huge to do those kind of things when you're in that space and point in your life.
So I left it up to Maggie to share what she wants to share. But if I pose a sort of off the cuff question, what would you say for you in your personal journey were the three hardest things about dealing with social anxiety, either in 8th grade or transitioning into high school, whichever?
Mm-hmm. I would say for me, one of the biggest things is my social anxiety, as most forms of social anxiety, was paired with deep insecurity and just feeling that I wasn't worthy of friends, I wasn't worthy of talking to this person, or doing this. And that's really damaging, especially when you're young and you're getting those signals from the media and you're getting those signals from others, to have those same messages towards yourself is just a really, really scary kind of thing. So that was definitely very difficult. And then I think also just always, like, I can't even really remember right now, because it's almost like I won't let myself, just how difficult it is, sitting in a room and feeling all of these like sensations and just being like, I'm gonna panic, and I also, like, I'm not in control.
Yeah.
And that's really scary. And then I think the third thing is just because of this, you're not able to go out and branch out and talk to new people, show people that you care about them and you want to get to know them, try new activities. Like, you almost aren't allowed to be an individual outside of your home and show people, like, what you have to offer.
I totally agree with that. I would say that that's a common theme with most of the girls that I work with, is that social anxiety in particular kind of becomes like this personal prison. Like, you're quite literally stuck in this prison. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you just feel very trapped. And it's very isolating too, because you think, well, I'm like the only one. And I mean, just, you are not the only one, but it certainly can feel like that.
Okay, so let's do something along those lines. Let's go back to when you were struggling and daydreaming about the life that you want or wanted at that point. What were those things that you craved? What were the goals that felt like so far off that you didn't know if you were going to make it, but you wanted really badly? What were those things?
I remember distinctly one of mine was to actually, so I do some songwriting, but I would share the piano part of my songs, which was only, half to my piano teacher. And I really wanted to share the lyrics and the vocals too, but that just seemed so difficult. But then that was one of my goals. It was actually quite high I remember on the exposure ladder. But I think I accomplished it sophomore year, yeah. I think. And now, like tonight, I'm going to a songwriting workshop with some other adults and sharing this piece I've been working on right now. And it's just so cool, because I look back and I think, like, that was so difficult for me, but now it's like I can just open up, and I feel like that's a big part of me that now I can share.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
So, this is bringing back some memories, but I remember specifically, it wasn't like even just sharing the lyrics. It was scary, like the thought of telling your piano teacher that you wanted to sing. Remember? Yeah. Like, because she offered just voice lessons too, right? Just saying the words.
I wanted to. Yeah.
I want to do that. I think I just totally remember that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, so when you start making these goals, things start to happen, and you realize that your world is bigger, and you push yourself even more. So we spent a few minutes before this interview talking about pushing outside of comfort zones, which is a key work in what we do in helping girls overcome social anxiety. And there's a real method to it, and it's a daily practice, which can be kind of uncomfortable, but the more you do it, I think Maggie is a perfect testament. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and your comfort zone freshman year looks completely different than your comfort zone senior year. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that for a bit.
Yeah. Well, like we said, my goals were to smile at someone in the halls, to say hello, and then, one step up from that was to actually have a conversation. So those were the kind of goals that I was at that point, and that was those were the little things I had to achieve to be where I am now. And I have no shame for that.
No.
Because you have to realize like that is where you're at, and you are valid in taking those little steps and celebrating them.
Yeah. And then fast forward, what does your comfort zone look like now?
Well, now I got into my dream school, Pitzer in California, and it certainly wasn't something that the odds were very good because of the acceptance rate. But now I'm just dreaming about the clubs I want to join, the activities I want to do, classes I want to take, and just so excited to meet everyone next year. And yeah.
I talked somewhere along the lines, just very generally, I always protect your confidences until I knew that you were open and willing to come and chat with all of us. But we talked about finding your political voice.
Right.
And just like how crazy cool that is to go from the goal being to have a conversation with somebody sitting next to you to finding like a voice with a powerful voice, not just a voice. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought politics were really boring and had nothing to do with me. But then I found an issue that hit very close to home with me because I survived a mass shooting when I was 15. And so I got together some other high schoolers in the district, and we formed a walkout, and I ended up speaking in front of 2,000 people about something that was, very deep and personal to me, but speaking about it in a way that motivated others and really brought like awareness to the issue, and then that idea of like we can make this happen, and we can figure this out. Yeah, and then it's just been kind of a crazy thing since then. I've flown to DC with 22 other students. I served on endorsement committee with adults to choose candidates. And it's just been crazy, and it's just opened this whole new door that I never thought was possible or even what I wanted.
Yeah, it's been quite the adventure for you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's go back to oh man, I got so caught up in your story. I had one question after that, but I was like fascinated. Let's talk about how what it's like to work with a mentor. So maybe like if there's girls out there that are thinking, well, maybe counseling didn't do quite what I was hoping it would do, or maybe I'm not making as much progress as I feel like I want to make. Like tell girls what it's like to work with a mentor.
I found that working with you, it's very patient focused. So you define what you want your goals to be and what self-improvement looks like for you. And you decide the little steps to make. And then you provide, the support and just someone always to talk to and to celebrate with you. And it's very empowering. It's very uplifting. Mostly it's just the reassurance that you are capable and you are good enough and strong enough to make those changes in your life that I've gotten out of life coaching.
Absolutely. And I think that one way I like to describe the process and working with a mentor is that, and I think this is different from counseling. You can tell me what you think, Maggie, but the girl who you are now was always there, right? She was just stuck in that prison type house of social anxiety and anxiety. So the mentor piece, and what I really love about it is that you didn't need to be fixed.
Right.
You just needed support, accountability, someone with some experience and some training to kind of walk alongside you. And I think that's my favorite difference between coaching and counseling. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. It really is, it's up to you, the changes you want to make. And, it's not about really being fixed by someone, but it's about being being shown a pathway to really accomplishing what's important to you.
Okay, so I think we might have already covered it, but so we talked about like advice, or if there was like a message that you could pass on to other girls who may or may not watch this video or be passed on through mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you say because this is a really unique group in the fact that every parent that will be watching this video is raising a daughter that struggles in not the same path, everybody's path is different, but struggles in a similar way. So you have an opportunity, if you want, to sort of share any words of wisdom or things that you wish you would have known as an 8th grade girl or a freshman girl. Like, what would your advice be?
I would say to like look at yourself where you are right now and accept that that's where you are right now, but also to just look forward and think that, you know, you can accomplish the world. You can make it happen if you just give yourself the grace to take those little steps. And also just that you're not alone. And I'm happy that mental health is getting, you know, less stigmatized, but there still is that there, and that's very difficult for anyone who struggles. But you are valid, and, you know, don't let anyone tell you that what you're going through isn't, you know, legitimate, because it really is, you know, it really is a real struggle. But there's so much hope, and it may feel like forever right now, but you have so much ahead of you, and there's just so many like mind-blowing things that you can do if you really just, you know, put the work in.
Oh, beautiful. Give me goosebumps. Okay, I'm only going to keep Maggie for another minute or two, but I see that Kathy is on the line. Is there anybody else out there? Or Kathy, do you have a question that you would love an opportunity to ask Maggie? I don't know if you're still there. We're learning. So if anybody has a question, feel free to pass it along right now. Otherwise, we're going to say goodbye to Maggie in a minute. And as usual, I will post in this Facebook Live, underneath it, I will post and invite you to book a call with me if you're curious about how life coaching and mentoring could positively impact the life of your daughter, much in the same way that it's been helpful for Miss Maggie over here. So since I don't see any questions popping up, I just hope that you guys will catch this on the replay. And thank you, Maggie, for your time and for sharing your wisdom and your joy with this community. Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.